A great looking swing here. And the big thing that we're going to be seeing on this swing in particular is if we don't have a good separation of our upper and our lower body, how as we start to come into transition and impact of the ball, that continued rotation is going to end up turning our club down. And more often than not, we're going to get from a generally good position into a very bad position right at the last second. And so what we're going to see here on this one is when we come into the top of the swing positionally, and the frame rate of this video unfortunately is not the best, so we're not going to have the ability to probably check all the positions, but generally speaking, as we come into the top of the swing, we start to see this kind of like forward motion towards the ball. And so we know that we're starting to probably put our weight a little bit too much on our feet. And so we can see just how flat our swing and swing plane is as we're coming back. We definitely have the butt of the club, well over the ball at this point, which is fine. But as we get up to the top, having this much of a lift or this much separation between our elbow and the underside of our body is generally going to get our club to start pointing over or across the line. And if we combine that with our upper body kind of pointing down and really rotating under, we end up getting into a bit of a precarious position where the lower body has to basically hold on to allow the upper body to catch up. And so from here, what we do is the perfect thing. The remedy for that is starting to shaw the club. And so if we can get to a position at the top here and we can see how everything starts to work underneath, this is the fix. This is how we can see a lot of different backswings get to the top. But as long as we get that kind of perfect starting move where the lower body starts and the upper body kind of just stays still, we can see how the hips and everything start to rotate beautifully. And now we're back on plane and ready to go. So the tough thing with this is we end up continuing to have these hips rotate. And so as they're going around to the side here, we're not going to be able to create consistent contact. And so our hands in the club, again, we can't really see exactly where it is, but we're going to guess that we're at a pretty neutral spot right around there, is that if we kind of watch frame by frame, we would want to see at this point the hips kind of clear into this spot, and then they kind of start to stop. And then from here, we would want to see a lot of this upward force. We want to start to be able to get to a position of leverage to be able to push off with that back leg and forward in order to really use the ground to help us get more compression and power through the ball. But what ends up happening is we kind of continue to spin. This right knee kind of continues to move forward, and we can see how our lower body is starting to move forward on the right side, and our left side of our lower body is continuing to rotate around. And the result is kind of this top scully position here where the club face is relatively straight, but now we're kind of coming over the top with a flat club face coming in, and unfortunately we're going to get this little squirter hook. The other thing we're going to see with our upper body as we come around is we do a good job kind of rotating around our body, but because we've had to rotate so hard to the left to save this thing from going right, this is one of those swings where we got into a really tough spot at the top and we did a really athletic and great job of getting ourselves back in contact. And because we have to work that hard in order to come back down, the consistency is a bit off. And so we come around really through the body, kind of ripping that thing through, unfortunately. Or maybe if you were trying to go for that little stinger, it worked out great. But I don't think the plan here was that stinger fade. We were really just trying to hit something nice and straight.